Well, we're here today to rain on the WHO's parade as they march for power. I think the WHO, we were here about 6 months ago, similar press conference prior to their June meeting in Geneva, where they tried to gain international support for their pandemic accord, which they did not do. And I'm becoming convinced that the WHO thinks that the rest of us have brain fog from COVID, and they're just going to keep trying this over and over again. But the facts do not change. This is a global power grab. And when you look at the various aspects that this would touch, in particular that have been touched on, that are very concerning, is their focus on so-called disinformation. What we recently saw in Brazil with X is a prime example of what governments would be doing, being empowered by the WHO's pandemic accord, calling on governments to silence and censor dissenting voices. You know, in America, we cherish the First Amendment. We cherish our freedom, and we cherish our families. Both are endangered under this pandemic accord. And I echo the calls here today, number one, to defund the WHO and get the United States out of it. But secondly, any agreement that is advanced by this administration, signed on to, should be submitted to the Senate for ratification and be treated as it is, as a treaty. So I thank these members of Congress for continuing to bring attention to this. While many ignore it, the WHO continues their march for power, and they will not stop. And it's going to be incumbent upon this Congress, this institution, stopping and protecting the American public from the WHO.
The United Nations Pact for the Future is going to be the deliverable at the Summit for the Future, which is this weekend, and nobody knows about it. So in this Summit for the Future, they're going to approve a platform, an emergency platform that will operationalize automatically in the case of a complex global shock. What does it mean to operationalize automatically? It means that once they have passed it through the United Nations, they don't have to ask other countries to approve it. They will just go forward with their protocols. And how did they approve this? It's being adopted by something called the silence procedure. The silence procedure, this is a pact. A pact is a form of treaty. It's supposed to go through the ratification process internationally. Instead, they're doing it where they submit a draft, and if nobody objects to it, then it's adopted. Adopted. And then it's noted that it was adopted at the actual Summit for the Future. So this is absolutely unconstitutional. Not only that, it's against the Charter of the United Nations. They are trying to expand their powers. They're doing an end run around their own charter through the silence procedure. We need to raise the alarm about this, and we need to stop it. Thank you.
This is really important. And most people in the media, most people in government, certainly the vast majority of Americans have no idea this is even going on, let alone reading in the rest of us. So it seems to me that what is needed now is not only to have the Senate charged, as with the World Health Organization's International Health Regulation Treaty, also the Pact for the Future. There must be no application of whatever they come up with in terms of world government by the UN Secretary General without the Senate's advice and consent.
Let me read out what the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, his policy brief 2, issued on March of 2023. I propose that the General Assembly provide the Secretary General and the United Nations system with a standing authority to convene and operationalize automatically an emergency platform in the event of a future complex global shock of sufficient scale. Guess who determines that? The World Health Organization. It reveals in their definition a possible global shock, including large-scale climate or environmental events, determined by who? The Secretary General. Future pandemics. We all endured what the problem we had with the latest virus. High-impact events, involving a biological agent, determined by who? The World Health Organization. Disruption of global flows of goods, determined by who? Not America, but the WHO under the Secretary General. Not only that, it requires a 5% payment by the United States every year of our total medical dollars spent, which are in the trillions. Bottom line, we cannot let this go. This is a top line issue that America must be made aware of. It's got to go through the Senate where it requires 60 votes. And we're going to fight to make sure all Americans know what's happening and stop it dead in its tracks. The WHO needs to be defunded, we need to do away with it, and America get out of it.